We're just starting. The time is just 10 o'clock. And we want to get started because the ambassador of Nigeria is down here. And I promise that the program will run fast and we'll be out here by 2 p.m. So thank you for coming. This is an event organized by the Irene Menakaya School in Nigeria in special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations in partnership with and the Center for SDG Global Education USA in collaboration with other entities. The essence is to address the last concluded high-level political forum outcome in line with the International Day for Education, which was declared January 24 this year, and to address it with respect to the education in community classrooms. We all know that the SDG is focused on leave no one behind and the 5 Ps. And we are looking at the 5 Ps as people in the community, the planet as the environment of the community, the cultural inhabitants of the community, the prosperity, the progress and development of the community. The peace, of course, when we look at the people, the progress and the situation in the environment, talk about the peace. And also, we also think about partnership. That's why you see most people looking different, because we are into partnership with them with regards to education, achieving quality and inclusive education in community classrooms. So these 5 Ps are very vital to what we are doing in line with the agenda of International Day for Education. And of course, the SDG 4, we all know that the United Nations is working on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and the Goal 4 stays on quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning. And that is our main focus. How do we move this agenda, the 2030 agenda, to suit with the education in rural communities? Like the country where we are, in most rural communities, we don't have accessibility, we don't have what takes to have quality as in urban cities. And that is one of our concerns. It's not only in my country, it's also across the world, the community classrooms. How do we have infrastructure that are quality? How do we have teachers, educators in the community that are ready to live and ensure that everyone gets quality education? How do we again improve the teaching career of teachers, building their teaching and learning capacity? How can it be done? These are one of our challenges. The infrastructure, the curriculum at start. I always tell people that when a child in Africa goes to school, a child that is 2 years and a little is there, if he goes to school and the first day in school is taught of A is apple. This child has never seen apple. He has never tasted apple. He has never touched apple. But we start our reading from day 1 as cramming. It is sung, it is read, it is repeated. A is apple, Z is zebra. Unlike in the developed world, where even before you start the school, the child from day 1 has started tasting apple. So these are some of the challenges. How do we now achieve quality and inclusive education in this kind of communities? There are communities where qualified teachers don't want to go and teach. Now, instead of going there to teach, they rather resign and start something else. You see, so these are the challenges that are confronting community classrooms. And Nigeria launched International Day for Education as January 24 every year. And we, in my own capacity as a civil society, through the Center for SDG, Global Education USA, we have been focused on Education Solutions Initiative along the SDG and the 2030 Development Agenda. The mandate of 2030 is fast moving. We now have 11 more years, 4 years already gone from 2015 to 2016. So we are now working with 11 years, and within these 11 years, how do we achieve quality and inclusive education in communities? And when we mean inclusive, all is inclusive. The teaching, the resources, the infrastructure, the culture of the environment, the community leaders, and everything that has to be included, the boys, the girls, even the adults. No one should be left behind. The less privileged, the underserved, all the migrant communities, what are they? What do we do to help them within these remaining 11 years to achieve quality and inclusive education? So basically, in the past 4 years, my organization has been trying to look at this aspect through education solutions. And then we are glad to build this in today in line with our agenda to launch an endowment fund as an initiative, as a community outreach project on SDG 4. And that is why we are here today. And I believe that at the end of this, we'll be able to do justice to the theme of this conference. And without taking much of your time, I would like to call the chair and the chair to this event and other speakers to come to the high table. I want to call Mohammed, please. Yes, I want to call Ambassador who is here representing His Excellency, the Permanent Ambassador of Nigeria to the United Nations. I want to call on the keynote speaker for this event. Oh, Daddy is here, Professor Dr. Walker, please. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I want to call on Dr. Kafani, please. No, the speakers are here. Professor Joko Fiajoko. Please clap your hands. Yeah. And I want to call Dr. Irene Menakaya. We need one more chair. One more chair. So I would like to hand over the mic to the chair of this section to do this opening statement.
Honorable guests, distinguished delegation from New York, Brooklyn, Pennsylvania, Delaware, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome you all to the Permanent Mission of Nigeria to the UN. My name is Mehmet Kılıç. I'm the president of the Journalists and Writers Foundation. Today, we are gathered here for two occasions. First, it is the promotion of the International Day of Education and Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is quality education. And the second occasion is the launch of the barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust. As you may know, last year in 2018, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed January 24, 2019 as the International Day of Education. This important day that promotes SDG goal number 4, which is quality education for peace and development. Sustainable Development Goal 4, quality education, is at the core of the UN Agenda 2030 that aims to achieve 17 goals and 169 targets. United Nations and UNESCO is calling all member states, private sector, and the civil society organizations to increase their commitment to education as a force for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We know that education is the key for curing our illnesses in the society. It is the only answer for sustainable development. The High-Level Political Forum 2019 also highlighted the theme of empowering people and ensuring inclusive and equality. How do we empower people? And how do we ensure inclusiveness and equality among people from diverse socioeconomic status? It is the SDG goal number 4. It is quality education that ensures inclusive and equitable quality education and to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Today, despite significant achievements in terms of universal primary education based on the Millennium Development Goals, there are still some challenges that all states, all member states, and all societies face worldwide. I would like to share some statistics. Worldwide, more than 262 million children and youth who do not have access to education. 617 million children and adolescents cannot read or write, or they don't do basic math. Less than 40% of the girls in sub-Saharan Africa are able to graduate from the lower secondary education. And around 4 million children and youth refugees are out of school. So when we look all around the world, all these statistics gives us an idea that we have to dedicate more on education. It is not only the responsibility for member states, it is the responsibility for the private sector businesses. It is the responsibility for the civil society organizations. And I know that you are here because you want to take part in making a change in the lives of the students from less privileged communities. The Education Solutions Initiative heard the call from the United Nations and UNESCO to invest in education by establishing the Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust to provide quality education for students from less privileged communities. And Dr. Ada talked about this Education Solutions Initiative, and I would like to welcome her one more time to now or maybe later to talk about the trust, endowment trust, or later on. Okay, now I would like to welcome Mr. Namadi Okechua Mize, Minister from the Permanent Mission of Nigeria to the UN, to deliver a speech on behalf of the Ambassador of Permanent Mission of Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the organizers of this event, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am here on behalf of the Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the UN, and the PGA-elect Professor Muhammad Tijani Bande, who is unavoidably absent. He is presently in Nigeria and has asked me to kindly represent him at this event. Definitely, we want to say that Nigeria government and indeed the mission of Nigeria, the UN, supports organizers of this event. The issue of education definitely is very key and important to us. Like the last speaker said, January 24th has been declared as International Day of Education. It may just to know or to note that Nigeria sponsored that resolution, and we galvanized members of the UN to ensure that it was passed. Why did we focus on that? It's quite simple. Over the years, we have understood and know the importance of education in development. The 17 sustainable goals cannot be achieved without education. That's the basic truth. If you look at the Western world today, most of the things that have gone through or met, I mean the kind of innovations impact everyone today is because of education. Without quality education, there's nothing anybody can do. And it's on that basis that we said no. Focus should be based on education, especially for those of us from developing countries. We know in Nigeria today, there has been this issue of basic education where we try to see if people can enroll in school, and that has been successful. But beyond that, we also have to look at the issue of quality education. It is one thing to have education, and it's another thing to have quality education. That is why the focus, even the PGA, the ambassador today has been elected as the next president of the UN General Assembly by the special grace of God, or next month he will assume his office. And he made education, quality education, as key area of focus throughout this period in the General Assembly. This is so because when you talk of poverty today in Africa, poverty in the world today, without education, can you ever combat poverty? As I said, no. Healthcare, the environment. You talk of zero hunger, you talk of healthcare, you talk of housing for all, sustainable planet. Now, if you are not well educated, if you don't have quality education to be able to make an impact in the environment and society, how then do you think we can solve or achieve those 17 goals? It is on the basis of that we decided to sponsor that resolution. And we thank God that we were able to rally around the whole UN to give support to that our resolution. And today, definitely more than anything else, we need quality education. If we're able to develop, because at the heart of development is nothing but education. So as this event is going on, the ambassador extends his felicitations to the organizers and asks them to convey his support and the support of the mission and our solidarity to you. That this issue of education is something that is at the heart of the focus of his PGA for this year and next year. Definitely, any area of collaboration that we wish the mission and the UN General Assembly will be there for you, to support you and to ensure that together we are able to do something regarding quality education, especially in developing countries. It is so because the issue of development is, I think, for us in Africa and some developing countries, we need development. Also, that we are grappling with a lot of issues in today's world, and we are very much persuaded that if we do much if we collaborate, partner together, give much emphasis and credence to quality education, we're able to impact our world today, change the way things are today in our little communities. And as a matter of fact, the impact comes from most of all of us, from related corners, from the community, from the states, from the community, from the society. It is not only for the government to ensure quality education. Everybody has a role to play, and that's very important. The community, the states, individuals, NGOs, society groups. I remember in those days when we were growing up, the government have limited resources, which we all know. Most communities in Nigeria build schools and give to government. We build schools and give to government. Government will not provide the teachers, and students will not enroll. In those days, it used to be students have to walk long distance to access education. And that is not too good then, because at that time, you have fewer students going to school. And if the enrollment, the school has limited number of people you can accommodate. So you see, most students or people were out of school. When the community efforts and help, schools were built, government was able to ensure that a lot of people now enroll in school. So having achieved that, what's the next step? What's the next step? You have to now ensure quality education. How do we ensure that? That is why today our government has launched what they call the homegrown school feeding program. Part of the issue is also issue of feeding, nutrition. Most people, because of poverty, most students, people are not able to eat. So they go to school hungry in the morning. And how can you learn when you are hungry? It becomes difficult. And today, government is providing food for people in school, from grade 1 to grade 9 in school. The essence is to ensure that students, as they go to school, they're able to learn. It is when you learn, you're able to now impact, you're able to ensure quality education. So let us, in only two ways, the what we can contribute towards the development of education in our communities, our states. Nothing is too small. Some of us come from communities. We can donate books, a lot of books here. Most people don't have access to internet. Here you have probably the Western world. But when you get back to Africa, probably, you don't have access to most of us. Those are luxuries. But here, it's a necessity because for you to make any impact, you have to research. That is why today, most parts of the world, the major source of income is research and development. You need to research. Once you're able to research, you sell and make money. But where we come from, Africa precisely, those things are quite very few can afford the internet. And you and I know the impact of internet today in our world. It is part of that education. How do we ensure that everybody has access to internet? Because once we do that, we also contribute to quality education. But let's reflect and see what we can do to contribute to quality education, to education of our people in our communities. It is on this note that I want to express our gratitude and thanks to the rest of this program for providing the rights and appropriate to come up with this event and program. We thank you for the foresight. I want to encourage you that the mission solely behind you. We are ready to partner with you. We are ready to support you in any way we can. And always count on your support and solidarity. Once again, I want to thank you all for coming and for listening. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much for your valuable remarks. I agree with you that we cannot achieve 17 goals and 169 targets without quality education. That is for sure. And also, I had the pleasure of meeting with the ambassador of Nigeria in many occasions. And my last time that I had a meeting with him was with a delegation of youth representatives from different parts of the world. And I learned about the work that Nigeria is doing to empower young people through education, through entrepreneurial skills, through creating jobs for them. And I think that is the way to go achieve these SDGs. And I think I would like to highlight a couple of things that Honorable Minister mentioned about the internet. And according to quality education, there are 4 C's that education has to provide to students. These are communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. So the students that are getting their primary education, they have to be instilled with these skills in order to become productive citizens. So they have to have communication, they have to have internet access, they have to have access to the resources in order to connect with the world. And another thing is that we kind of like build schools, but that is not enough. We have to move on to higher education, right? Students, they have to go to university to get higher skills, to compete with their peers in the world. And is it enough? No. When they graduate from university, we have to create jobs for them, or we have to provide opportunities for them so that they can improve their entrepreneurial skills. I agree with the minister that it is not only the responsibility of the state, it is the responsibility of everybody, from an individual level to a communal level and to a global level. So I thank you so much for your remarks, Minister, Honorable Minister. Now I would like to move on to our next speaker, Mr. Joe Omayekwa, and he's going to deliver a keynote presentation on addressing inclusive education in rural communities. Please welcome Professor Omayekwa.
Thank you very much. My name is Joe Mokwe. I grew up in Nigeria, and by God's grace, found myself here in 1980 at Columbia University, pursued my career. After my doctoral program in mathematics, I took up a job with Uni. From there, I moved to Truro College in 1987. I became the first chair of the math department there. And why did I shift from where I was to Truro College? Because I've always loved to work with in areas that are disenfranchised, poor, and needy. Knowing my background, know that I never wore a shoe until I was 12 years old. Know that I had to go to fetch water every morning when I was in high school, bucket on my head, walk 3-4 miles to get home. Knowing that I have to take my bath in the river and get a bucket of water, carry it in my head to get home, so that my aunt, I used to live with a teacher. My parents thought that the best way to raise me is to send me to my aunt who was a teacher in a primary school in some local area near my hometown. So I grew up in that environment, and being raised by a teacher, I found my way to government college, and the rest is history, to where I am today in life. But I haven't said this. I'm working with schools in areas here in New York City from 85, 86, 87, I find that Touro College, for example, gave me have an insight. When we moved the campus from Tidal Towers in Harlem to the South Bronx in New York, my eyes opened to the need to have inclusive education. I saw poverty in South Bronx. I can relate to my own background growing up. I saw gang violence. We put up a campus at St. Paul's Church in Washington Avenue in the Bronx. From there, we began to expand the college to Sunset Park and other places in the city. And then after a while, I moved back to CUNY. Now I'm at Barr College, another small college in Manhattan, 155th Street, and in the Bronx. And I spent more time in the Bronx, also working with minorities. These are franchise people. But what I have been doing in the last, so I'm not going to give you a big speech, I just want to share with you what I've been doing with myself in the last 3-4 years now. I decided to look at my background, look at where Nigeria is, look at other countries I've been to. I'm part of founding the university in Ghana called Christ for the Nations University in Kofrida, Ghana. And the founder of that university with Dr. Donko up in Canada. Been working with some people like him, trying to find new universities in Africa. But what I find out that I come to a point that working with the governments in Africa, apart from Ghana and South Africa, I begin to not discourage developing international that the best thing for us to do as individuals is to walk outside the government, begin to find a way to make a difference, an impact. So I picked on Dr. Gandhi Wabo, so that was the first time I began to develop a module from what Ada is trying to do now, inclusive education. When I was in Namibia with him, we canvassed our country back and forth in the same vein to reach to the natives who have been pushed to the corner. If you went to Woodhook, you find that the whites are all over the place. The education is, of course, the blacks are in power, but the whites still control the mechanisms, the dynamics that empower the people. And until we learn to empower our people to take charge and stop waiting on the government to make a difference, we're not going anywhere. So I begin to find that we have to find a way, among us for intellectuals and who have what to give, to begin to find a way to network with one another and destroying the myth that an individual cannot make a difference. If I begin to look at the problems, we'll be here for a long time. Because when I left Namibia, the next thing was to go to Zimbabwe. It was Dr. Sam Sivander who helped me to begin to understand inclusivity of everyone, every class in education in the rural area. Having grown in poverty, I see that the only way out is for those of us who have something to give, to come together and begin to make a difference. The other thing that pains my heart, even those of us who try to develop new universities, new schools, are building universities, I will name names, or schools, even high schools, that the poor can't even afford. Even where even the churches are getting to the business of funding universities and high schools. Even the members of those churches cannot afford those universities, can't afford the schools, the high schools, can't even afford the daycare centers that they are church funded, that the tithes and money of the members of the church funded. So I'm kind of looking for the way we can get around all this and try to be inclusive in giving education at every level. Nigeria is a good model for us to look at. Whether universities build up everywhere, I mean daycare everywhere, secondary schools everywhere, high schools, that's secondary school, and tertiary education. But how many can afford it? And even when they can afford it, talking about quality education, I developed an acronym for myself, which is all I'm going to say, then I'll take my seat. If any questions, I will answer, and I will tell you what I found out to be the problem. You cannot solve a problem until you know what you're contending against. And I'm still struggling to come up with a question that I can answer that will form the thesis of anything I want to do in Africa now. Because I don't think that we have even have a question we're asking ourselves. Talk much about the answer. And we are throwing money at projects on issues that we don't even know what are the questions. But I can say, put it this way, what are the issues contending with the destiny of the black man? When I use the black man, I mean black race. Man is a generic example. Do we know actually what are the issues we are contending against? I don't care what you look at. South London, South Bronx, South Los Angeles, here in America as a whole. What actually are we fighting against? I haven't found the question, so I can't give an answer. I'm waiting for someone to help me so that we can struggle to get a question that we can answer. But beyond even that, I find that what I put it this way, my struggle in trying to come up with a question is this: what are the things contending with the destiny of the black race? Because we need to come to ask ourselves the question, whether you look at the Bronx or Brooklyn or anywhere else, what are the things contending against our destiny? Is it within us or outside of us? Because if you don't know your identity, all you gotta do is to be complaining. When raising issues, whenever I hear of who's complaining against the government, against this person, against that person, all I'm saying to myself is this: do I know who I am? Do I know what I possess? Because those of us who are even privileged to have education at any level, would we understand that really the issue of our destiny is simple, that we don't even know who we are? Talking much about what we're contending against. So I'm going to put it this way, please don't get angry with me. If I see any complainer, I begin to look at myself and say, this individual, including me, we don't even know who we are. Because you can, I'm developing a study now that I'm saying that every one of us, you do have something to give to the community. We cannot make a difference. We can make a difference developing little things where we are. I remember when I was the equivalent of what we call here the 10th grade, I developed a tutorial center for those under me who can read. I have learned math from when I was little. So I can be a tutor to those kids who are struggling with numbers. Very young, 10th grade. And the headmaster of our school at that time recognized my effort, because I used to come back to the classroom and get us other students and start teaching them. And I got a prize for that. That made me to think that I'm going to be a teacher. Down the line, I'm going to be a teacher. So I want to make a difference in education, in helping someone. And that's driving me to today that I could work in some big colleges, but I'm looking for small universities, small schools, small colleges that we can make a difference. So every year now, I'm either in Namibia, or I just came in 3 weeks ago from Nigeria. Where did I go to? Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State, where the oil of the nation, bulk, is coming from that state. I'd never seen poverty in my life like I saw in Bayelsa State. Never saw poverty. And I arrived, went down to Unigua to go to 3 islands, I won't name names, that we're looking at to help in the school systems there. There is no way you can get to these islands except by engine boats. I have to take this boat, and the boat I took, there was no life vest in the boat. And I can't remember last when I was in this kind of dingy boats that the guy who is piloting this is our experts. My team and I, we sat in this boat, and for the next hour and a half, we are just cruising the water. no life jackets. They couldn't afford one. We got to the first island, spent 3 days there with our networking people. I never seen poverty till I got there. And I can tell you, 12-year-olds have 2 children. 15-year-olds have 3 children, no husband. And I saw poverty and I feel like tearing up again. This is a country where the oil comes from. I pass oil fields, still flaring up. But that's my country. That's my state. That's where the money is. Yet the poverty I saw there is unbelievable. We went to the next island, same thing. That one is even worse. And I'm not talking about last 2 years. I just came in 3 weeks ago from Bayelsa. Dr. Chinyere Okojaja, the wife of the bishop of an Anglican church over that area, is my partner there. We went from island to island, the same story. I mean, it's a franchise community. And the nation has the money. So just put a little bridge to link up these islands. Very easy. We did it in Lagos. We can do it in Bayelsa State. So when you're talking about inclusive education, you're talking about kids that go to school with a canoe, hopping from one island where there's better school, because this island they have nothing but only to the 10th grade or 11th grade equivalent here. So the next level, they have to go to the next island. And they have to go with canoe every morning. How many can afford it? It's not free, take note. The only means to get around this island is just what we call keke. Some type of vehicle to travel around is horrible. And many things like that I saw. So I want to, because of time, give you the acronym that's a crisis. Not only in Nigeria, when it comes to education, whether they want to accept the government or not, whether we want to accept that things are not what they should be, I want to plead with you to bear with me. We need help. We need help. Because until we know what we are contending against, it's going to be a hard time for us to conquer this demon that I'm calling crisis. See, you have to define what you are contending against. Am I making my point? You have to resolve in yourself to resist those that resist change in these places, not violently, but using what I call creative methods to begin to attack these issues that are holding us back from knowing ourselves at the grassroots level, finding those you can partnership with, see what we can do to improve our people. And I can go on and on the issue of networking among us. But the other thing I want to point out here today is this. Can you and I, he and I, this setting, resolve to move forward? Because too much theories, too much propositions. We all know what is lacking, but the will to make a change is what I'm talking about. So I will suggest this morning that you individually, myself, we locate something we can be doing every year. I was in Namibia, I was in Zimbabwe, this summer, I'm in Bayelsa. What can we do? I took on to come to link up with Ada because she's been inviting me for a while, but I've been busy both in school and traveling. I say, I'm going to come to set up a partnership with you. We float this NGO, which is Vineyard in the Bronx, for the purpose of trying to do after-school program in South Bronx, run a food pantry, because these kids go to school without food. In Bayelsa. That's what we're not doing now, to ship food over there. So that these kids can have normal breakfast, just little breakfast. How can they learn in a hungry stomach? I mean, it's terrible. Even if it's for us to form a food pantry in some of these islands, we can do that. Don't wait for the government. John F. Kennedy put it to me, growing up, I mean, I thought with fiscal government when they came over there in Africa those days. And I know those slogans, don't ask a country what it can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I am sick and tired of waiting on the government. Who can make a difference? Anything that has to do with government, count me out. It's not going to work. Because they talk too much. They share the money. They don't do anything. If not for you, I won't even come to this consulate. I don't wait anymore here. I had my experiences with this consulate in the 80s as a student at Columbia. To get my money, my file is missing for 4, 5 days, 6 days. To get, even to help ourselves here in this environment, it's even a problem. So my focus till I no longer exist in is to call on each one of every one of us here, all of us together. How can we make a difference on our individual levels? What can we come up with? The next summer, we will go to mission work in Africa somewhere as a team. So no matter what you hear from this podium today, you can't get a sense of what I'm talking about until you all arise with me. Let's go. If you come to see what I saw, you will tear up the way I'm tearing up. I don't like theories. Yes, I thank God I'm a mathematician. I like to work with numbers. I like to be practical. I don't like romance in language. I have none. All I came to tell you, I want to team up with you. I want to team with everyone here. By this time next year, can we take a project? It could be this foundation you're setting up, can it? Partnership with Vanya, and let's see what we can do as a team and begin to work together. There's a crisis, and we have to solve it together. And like I said, I just came to give my own testimony, what we're doing. I like what I saw in Ghana, which is where I go twice a year, being on the board of All Nation University in Kofreda, Ghana. I work there. The government at least is amenable to partnershiping with people like us who have NGOs and so forth, and fund the local NGOs directly to do what they have to do. So things are moving. Like we talk about cyber cafes that we can set up near schools. We and I can set up one cyber cafe. What does it take to open up a cyber cafe? So that these kids can have experience of internet for once and be able to do their work in these cyber cafes attached to high school. Run by you, not by the school. Because the funding will not get to where it should go. But we go there taking up ourselves and let the school know or the board know that we are setting up this for their students. Practically, that's where I believe to do my thing now that I'm doing over there, whether it be in Namibia. I don't want to leave it in the hands of the government. We give it to the students as a gift. We manage it from here. We run it from here, and that's where I'm going to end.
I would like to thank Professor Omar Ekwe for his remarks. And he underlined the importance of inclusive education for all. He talked about equality in access to education, and also I think like the quality of education. We're seeing quality education, but what does really quality education mean to you? I want to ask you, what is quality education? I think I give you some answers. One of them is the 4 C's, which is communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. Right? These are the 4 C's that is about quality education. And I think the other thing that it is about quality education is STEM education. It is science, technology, engineering, and math. And now it is included with arts, because in our time, art is not only drawing pictures, it's designing, right? Designing all these computers, laptops, or our appliances, all these has to do with about designing. And I would like to give you, like an information about artificial intelligence. According to statistics, in the next 10 or 20 years, most of the jobs that exist now will disappear. Let me give you an example. We have so many taxis here in New York, right? What happened with Uber, right? Many of the taxi drivers lost their jobs. Now with artificial intelligence, they are creating driverless cars. So what would happen? Maybe in the next 10 years or even like less than 5 years, there will be cars without drivers. Not only about cars or others, but now when we talk about automation, right? Now computers, robots are taking the jobs. So that's why it is important to instill, it's important to give STEM education or STEAM education to the young people. Now I would like to welcome our last speaker for this session, Mr. Gregor Walker. Mr. Walker is going to deliver a speech on addressing inclusive education for indigenous people. And please welcome Mr. Gregor Walker.
Hello, everybody. Is it morning or is it afternoon now? What should I say? Good day. I'm Greg Walker, and I'm a problem solver. That's the reason why I've been called here today. I'm an award-winning author. I would talk about that. A lot of my books are in schools, but I have something more important to talk about. There's been a lot of discussion today about the poverty in Africa and other places. And what I've been doing over the last several years, I've been working on something to deal with that. Everybody can remember being a child in school. You had little pets in the school. You had guinea pigs, you had rabbits. Some people in Africa might have had chickens or a goat out in the field. These animals did not contribute anything except for the knowledge of nature to the young people. But what I have done is, I have found a way to take an animal, actually an insect, that kids can raise and farm right there in their schools. And this insect will change the world. There's an insect called a black soldier fly that is indigenous to America. This little insect is going to be as important for the world as the honeybee is now. And everybody knows we could not survive if all the honeybees went away. What's going on right now is, in the developing world, we're not surviving because of sanitation problems. Huge sanitation problems where kids can't even go to school, where people's neighborhoods are all messed up, where the villages and the towns are overrun with garbage and human waste. This little insect, and you should write this down, is called a black soldier fly. This little insect will consume all of that. Eat it all, right? And then this little insect will become himself the greatest animal feed or fish food, animal feed that anybody has ever had. This little animal will take the human waste that human people generate, and this little insect will create farming products that are the highest quality fertilizer that we need for all of our farms. All kinds of things we can do to add to the soil, to create a brand new soil. This insect, in cooperation with the farming technique that I've created, myself and my crew, it's called Sanitation microfarming, and I'm introducing it to the world for the first time here and now. Sanitation microfarming. I've devised a way to take this insect and use its larvae to create a toilet system inside of people's houses, to create a system inside of a person's kitchen where you're going to toss your food waste in there, and these little insects will eat it up, and they will create the exact thing that we need to get us out of poverty the whole world over. What am I saying? The system that I've created will blanket the earth with new soil. Everyone knows that the biggest problem that we have in agriculture and going into the future is the depletion of our soils. Let me tell you something. This is a miraculous thing. There's a bacteria in soil that is needed for all food. It's needed for everything that we need to grow. This bacteria is being destroyed by our bad activities, bad farming, pollution, all right? And this is something miraculous that I found out. The bacteria that we need to feed ourselves, to feed our plants that we are destroying, is in soil, it's in all healthy soil. But this bacteria is also inside the bowel system of human beings. And if you can find a way to get that bacteria out of the bowel systems of human beings and get it back into the ground where it belongs, we will have a revolution. Here's what I'm talking about. Your average school in the developing world is barely getting along. But with the system that I've devised, the average school in the developing world can generate a minimum of $50,000 United States money every year to take care of all their needs. Why? Because of the value that the system will create. This insect, if you add what they call biochar to the system and utilize the activities of this insect, you will actually create tons and tons of brand new soil. And this brand new soil that I'm talking about, if you look it up on Alibaba, it's worth about $2,000 per ton. In the average school, we're not talking about my systems for the home. That's another thing. We're addressing school and education here. But the average school will be able to generate many thousands of dollars just off the human waste. Also, this is something else I've taken care of with this system. Again, it's called sanitation microfarming. Within this system, menstrual blood from women and from girls go into the system. And the more menstrual blood you have into the system, the higher quality the products will be that come out of the system. Are you people following me? Following what I'm saying? Right now today, there's a big problem in the developing world where girls, about the age of that young lady right there, stop going to school because of the problems with their menstrual blood, with the menstrual problems and sanitation. They quit going to school, so you have a whole half of the community that you can't tap into to solve problems. This is going to stop with sanitation microfarming. And the value of a girl in your family is going to go up immensely, because when someone comes to your house or when someone comes to your school to pick up the products that this system creates, the presence of girls and women within your household, within your school, within whatever it is that you have will be elevated. This system will blanket the entire world with a new coating of soil. And check this out. The system cannot be cultivated efficiently except for in places of tropical nature, the places of the developing world. The insect that I just described, it cannot thrive up here. It'll be here for the summer and then it will die, or it will migrate somewhere. This insect system requires a certain type of tropical pH, certain type of humidity, certain type of temperature. And these are the places where all of our developing countries live. So these creatures will be put to work for us. Again, I want to say, it's called sanitation microfarming. This is the first time that I'm actually revealing this. Many colleges and universities have done studies of this insect. And they know that this insect is the most powerful thing that you could ever have to work for you. More powerful than a cow, more powerful than a mule. It's right up there with the insects that we know of that help flowers, like honeybees. So this system that I created, everyone in their house, in a developing world house, they'll be able to generate several $1,000s a year. Now, in Africa, your average salary or your average, earnings of a human being is in the low hundreds. This is going to put a stop to that. And why is it going to put a stop to that? Because about 10 to 15% of Russian soil is gone. It's unusable. About 10 to 15% of Chinese soil is gone. It's unusable. About 10% of European soil is gone. It's unusable. They're going to have to come to the people in the developing world to reconstruct their soil. Now, if you all are understanding what I'm saying here, I'm talking about a whole new system of trade. Giant amounts of these remediated soils that are going to be sold from the homes, the shanty towns, from the villages. Well, they won't be villages and they won't be shanty towns for long. Once this takes place, this is going to revolutionize the world, and it will lift up Africa and all the other developing world they're going to come out of poverty. All right? It is a needed product that the so-called first world or the developed world needs because of how they've treated their soil, because of how they treated their environment. And here we are in the developing world with horrible sanitation problems. Horrible sanitation problems. Many, many children, 10, 20% of children in African villages born stunted because of the bacteria that they ingest because there's a bad, terrible sanitation system. And because flies are landing on them, landing on their food, the flies are everywhere. Well, let me tell you something. The black soldier fly gives off pheromones that gets rid of what we call filth flies. If you have a lot of these flies I just described to you at work in your community, the filth flies that are poisoning your children, the filth flies that are getting on your food, those flies will go down, in some cases, to zero. All sorts of people will be able to create brand new farming and animal husbandry based on this system. Why? Because the system creates food for chickens, food for fish, food for goats, food for pigs, at almost zero cost. Because the animals are a part of the universe, and if you find a way to corral these black soldier flies, which is what I've done, if you find a way to corral these creatures and put them to work for you, they will put an end to poverty in Africa. If you have any questions, I'm open.
Yes, I have one question.
Yes.
My name is George Jackman. My question is, I'm just concerned of how this is going to work in those drought-stricken areas in Africa. That's my question.
Yes. My system will work in the drought-stricken areas because it'll be able to harness new technologies. And what are these new technologies that we can get a hold to? Nobody cares about them over here because we have regular normal water systems, right? But a lot of universities are perfecting a system for getting water out of the air. There's more water in the air than there is in all of the streams and lakes and everything all over the world. And if you can find a way to get them, now this is a system, this is a technology that's been known, that's been used for 20 years. Nobody cares about it around here though. And people in Africa, we're too poor to get a hold to it because we don't have the money. but we will. We will have the money. And that's going to put an end to that. It's going to put an end to it.
Do you have any of this information on social media yet?
No social media. This has been in stealth, right? This has been something I've been working on. Nobody but a few close, very, very trusted friends have known about what I've been doing. This is something I've been working on in stealth. But soon, it's going to be everywhere. I paired up with some blockchain people. If anybody knows what Bitcoin, blockchain, all that is, blockchain is just as revolutionary, and it's designed to be, I've designed my system to be paired to this. Let me tell you how it works. Someone will pay into the system and buy these products that we're talking about, right? We're talking about feed for animals. We're talking about soil that you can use to reinvigorate all your agriculture. Someone out there needs these things. They'll come and they'll pay into the system, and the system will transform whatever native money that is into what we call Kepler coin. It's a digital currency that we've created. This Kepler coin will be automatically, through cryptography, it will be transferred and given to everybody in the system. And then everybody will get paid. And everybody will be out of poverty, and you'll be able to look on the blockchain and see where everyone, how everybody's getting paid and how much money was paid into it. No one will be able to swindle it. Everybody will be able to track it, and it's going to revolutionize our lives everywhere. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, thanks so much for your remarks. Biofarming is an interesting area, and it's summertime. Many people are fearful about sharks, but when we talk about the statistics, that more than 750,000 people every year annually die because of mosquitoes or like these flies or insects. And since health is one of the SDGs in the Sustainable Development Goals, I think like this technology hopefully will help development in the developing countries. Now we have 3 speakers, but before we move on with our panel, we will have the launch of the Juni and Menakaya Endowment Trust for Community Solutions through Education. Now I would like to welcome 3 distinguished guests for the launch of the Trust Endowment Trust. Please welcome Irene Menakaya to the podium. Irene Menakaya, Dr. Juni Menakaya, and Dr. Ucha Menakaya. Okay, if you are in the audience, Ms. Irene Menakaya, Dr. Juni Menakaya, and Dr. Ucha Menakaya. Okay, over here. Irene Menakaya? Thank you. Okay, great. And Dr. Ucha Menakaya? I'm sorry. All right, so we will have the opening of the endowment trust, but I will give them an opportunity to talk about why they come up with this idea and how this is going to help promote quality education, and what are some of the ways that you and we can help for this endowment trust. So we'll go with.
My name is Irene Menakaya, and I am a 10-year-old pupil of St Hilda's School in London, UK. I'm the first child of Juni and Thelma Menakaya, and one of the grandchildren of Barr and Mrs. Juni Menakaya. Today is indeed a remarkable day for me, as I have been invited to speak at a global event dedicated in the honor of my grandparents, Barr, Juni, and Mrs. Irene Menakaya. I feel so proud when my dad reminds me of the work my grandparents did in Nigeria, building the first ever pre-primary school in Onisha, and how it helped my dad, his brother, and thousands of other children go through school successfully. My dad told me that when he was younger, He worked really hard at school, copying information from the blackboard, writing in his exercise books, and using his local library to get information about his schoolwork. This was before the days of the internet, computers, iPads, and cell phones. He told me that sometimes the books were not available in the local library, and he had to borrow from his fellow friends. Books for his homework were also very expensive, and many parents could not buy the required books. My dad's experience at school is very different from my own learning today. At my school, I use whiteboards connected to the internet for my lessons, and the internet connects me to children throughout the world, where we can share ideas and solve problems together. The information on the internet is a lot, and I have learned how to focus my search and filter the appropriate information for my schoolwork. Not only that, my cousins in the United States and Australia have told me how activities outside the classroom, such as yoga, art classes, swimming, running, music making, thinking clubs, chess, and yes, Take a Break Club, has enabled them to learn better in the classroom. We learn skills such as great communication and teamworking and resilience as we develop our abilities in this new dawn of child education and prepare ourselves as leaders of tomorrow. As flag bearers of a new dawn in child education, I can say that the way we learn is different from the way my dad had his education, but it's very much in line with the visions of our grandparents who were determined to ensure that every child has access to quality education that prepares them for their future. I am particularly touched by what my grandmother Irene did for girls' education in Nigeria as I start my final year at St. Hilda's. Together with my friends, colleagues, and classmates, will continue to be part of their vision. I will work with my cousins, parents, and family to ensure that we continue to promote and enhance the vision of our grandparents, providing quality education for our communities. What more can I say? My grandparents were great people and were great in service to their communities. I thank my parents for making me a part of this great vision. Thank you.
Well done. So my name is Irene Menakaya, and I'd like to start by thanking the permanent representative of the Nigerian Embassy to United Nations, his representatives, guest speakers, and ladies and gentlemen. This is a bit of a journey, so I hope you follow me in this journey. So in 1979, Nigeria was going through a major political revolution. That was the year that we're installing our first democratically elected presidential candidate after many years of military rule. But at that same time, there was a pioneering transformation unfolding in Anambra State, in the eastern part of the country. Our parents, Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya, decided at that same time to realize their vision of setting up a pioneering education program for children in the state. You might ask, what's that about? This venture was new, it was untested, and they were building, in fact they built and opened the first ever school for children 2 years to 5 years. So that was what was different, because up until then, schooling was from 6 rather than from 2. These children were what we call pre-primary, nursery, or kindergarten, and then that was something very new.
Let me tell you about my mom. She was a teacher who started her career in the 50s at a local church-run teacher training college called St. Monica's. She excelled in school, in class, but also in sports. She was a high jumper and represented her school, her region, and her state at various events. When she completed her education, she moved to Ibadan, which was in western Nigeria, about 500 kilometers from where she grew up. And then she started her teaching career in primary school, which was what she knew, and also started a new family with her husband, Jerry. He was a pharmacist and businessman at the time. But what struck her, though, was that she was unfulfilled by that career. And when she got to London in the 60s, she had a chat with her husband, and at there they decided she should be trained to be a nursery school teacher. And she gained her certificate from University of London in the late 60s. Now, these days, could have just said she'll have turned around and settled in the UK, but the urge to make a difference was overwhelming, and she and her husband returned to Nigeria in the 70s. And as they say now, the rest is history. The rest of their life was spent dedicating their passion for education, their intellect, their financial resources, and professionalism in setting up and running an exceptional education institution for pre-primary, primarily, and primary school children in Onisha in the western Nigeria and eastern Nigeria. Now, they took a loan, 20,000 naira, and I wonder what that will be now in Nigeria in today's money from Union Bank. And they set about converting a disused factory into a purpose-built educational facility. And they named it International Nursery School, and the motto, "My child is my pride." And I remember then I was a young boy visiting the school, and what I saw was beautifully colored walls, lots of posters. A is for apple, B is for boy, X is for xylophone. Now, what's a xylophone? And what else? And lots of Play-Doh or plasticine, as we called it then, Lego bricks, Unifix bricks, and unlimited supplies of pencils and crayons, things that children can play with and create. And I remember also thinking, at primary school we had a barren field to play with, and nothing there, but they had multicolored swings and slides and climbing blocks where they could play in a supervised setting, in a safe space. That was new, and that was fantastic for young children then. And in fact, the society was not prepared for it at the time, and they did not know what to do with it. So my mother was very much integral in developing a curriculum, teaching teachers, and also using her school as a place for teacher training. What I could say to you, but the society could not deny the academic and emotional advantage it gave those little boys when they transited to primary school. And they wanted to rush and be part of that. And that advantage did not stop in primary school. We could see that transiting as the children went from primary to secondary school, and from secondary to university, and from university into their professional careers. And so when I look at myself today as a neonatologist in pediatrics in London, or my brother, a gynecologist in Sydney, or my sister, who is a lawyer in Philadelphia, my brother, another engineer in New York, it sort of tells me that actually that attention, that ability to support young children at that time actually made a difference to not only us, but to thousands of our children in Nigeria and the wider world. The school was renamed Irene Menakaya International School in 1999 when they passed away, but it's maintained its vision to make education accessible to all children, irrespective of their financial status. We've always granted scholarships and bursaries to families who could not otherwise afford education, and this is a practice we've continued. As considerate of their vision for quality education, we are determined to carry on their life's work in educating children and the wider community. Today, we are committed to broadening their work to include inclusive education in rural communities, and will strive to develop facilities and infrastructure for this model of education in Nigeria. This initiative will align the school with programs that aid the UN towards achieving these targets for United Nations SDG goals number 4. And I pay tribute to my sister, Dr. Irene Menakaya, for her role in getting the UN to grant the school a special consultative status in 2017. What I can say today is that we are incredibly grateful for the opportunity to be part of this journey. It is new to us as it was new to our parents 4 decades ago, but I know that with your support and with your and working with you in partnership with you and with the United Nations, we will achieve not only what our parents achieved, but also go beyond what they've done and helpfully transform not only individuals, but vast swathes of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, the representative of the High Commissioner, Ambassador to the United Nations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your presence today. Without wasting much time, I think it's important to understand the origins and how we came about the launch or the development, establishment of the Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust, what it has done so far, and hopefully where it wants to go over the next 10 years. So, following the adoption of the 17 SDGs by the world leaders in 2015, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, called on civil societies to develop and implement activities that would ensure the success of the SDGs as we march towards the 2030 development agenda. In response to the Rebel Secretary General's clearing call and under the guidance of His Excellency, Ambassador Dennis Antoine, the former ambassador of the mission of Grenada and Deputy President of the UN General Assembly's 70th session, an Education Solutions Initiative for SDG 4 and its 7 targets was established. Part of the objective of the Education Solution Initiative is to increase awareness among stakeholders in education about the SDG 4 and its targets, and as well encourage teacher training in quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning. This initiative recognized the importance of involving educators and various stakeholders in education, students, retired teachers, and indeed the entire community to develop solutions to existing education challenges and identifying gaps that hinder the promotion of lifelong learning as defined within SDG 4. About 4 years ago, the Irene Menakaya School became a pilot center for community outreach on SDG and subsequently transitioned to become a community school center with a focus on community education consistent with the visions of the Education Solution Initiative. 2 years later, in recognition of the work it was doing, the school received a special consultative status from the Economic and Social Council at the United Nations. The school also became a member of the United States Federation of UNESCO Corps, Centers, and Associations. Subsequent to this success as a pilot community school center, the school board of governors established the Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust as a project of the school to expand its support of the UN agenda on SDG 4. The trust developed an 11-year strategic plan committed to addressing the significant educational needs of the less privileged in the community as part of our contribution to achieving the targets set in the 2030 development agenda. This trust, being launched today, will continue to work within the vision of the Education Solution Initiatives to provide solutions to the educational needs of the less privileged and encourage innovation in the classroom. The focus of the trust includes improving educational facilities and learning environment, providing scholarships and grants, and building the capacity of teachers. Since its inception, the Endowment Trust has partnered with the Department of Education of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University to provide yearly 100,000 Naira grants and and awards to the best graduating student in the adult education category. And also with the College of Education in Surrey to provide yearly 50,000 Naira grants to the best graduating student in early childhood education. The Trust is also currently providing academic scholarships for 28 children from less privileged backgrounds up to primary, for their primary education, and indeed has partnered with the Maureen Brown Phillips Foundation to run yearly workshops that build the capacity of teachers in classroom management, teaching effectiveness, and teaching skills training. We thank Ms. Maureen Brown Phillips for her contribution to the work and the foundation's work in Nigeria. Mr. Brown Phillips is here. But we know we can do more, and I hope that with your help today, with the launch of this foundation, we'll continue to do as much as possible to improve the quality of education we provide to the less privileged within our community. In this, we would like to expand the current school library to become a more community-focused library service. We would like to improve the school's computer laboratory to up to 50 computers with access to the internet. We'd also like to continue and expand the university scholarships and grants that we have for another 10 years. We would like to continue the early education scholarship programs to include up to 100 less privileged children within the community. At the same time, in the spirit of collaboration, to establish the Global Teachers Classroom that promotes teacher exchange programs from within and outside Nigeria. As a result, we would like to ask for cash and kind donations for up to $80,000 to assist this fund and this fund are launching to continue the work it has so successfully done in the last 5 years. The Trust is a registered entity with the United States Department of Treasury and our services. It has a EIN number, and donations to it are tax deductible. Checks to the fund should be written to Barrister Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust, and I hope that with this clarion call, individuals here will find within their hearts to continue the work as defined by the AUG 4 program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we'd like to move on to unveiling the launch of the Endowment Trust. I'd like to call upon the Menakaya family over here. Sir, you can say.
Ambassador is not here, but just he's here with you. So what you have here is the banner of the trust. All we just want you to do is to unveil to present the trophy, and then you give us 5 minutes for us to play the Handel Messiah in their honor. Thank you so much. So on behalf of the Ambassador and the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you. On behalf of the Ambassador, Permanent Deputy of Nigeria to the United Nations, Professor Mohammed Tijan Bande, it is my pleasure and honor to unveil this the glory of God. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of our family, we want to say thank you for being part of this. I believe that parents are building a very strong legacy in terms of, my child is my pride, which is the motto of the school where my parents started the school. So they understood the importance of education. And that's why they also made sure that each and every one of us, 7 of us, me and the 7th, we were all able to go to school because they understand the importance of it and how impactful it could be to the society. Because education is a very vital tool that can actually help to boost the society that we all live in, that can help to build the future. So I want to say thank you, and thank you all for the support. And we look forward, we pray that this trust is going to create more impact, in the life of many people around the globe, as we continue to support and follow through our parents' legacy. Thank you all. Thank you so much, sir, for this support.
Well, thank you so much all. We could be seated. Our program has not ended.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable and distinguished guests. Welcome to such an auspicious event. I must say, it's my privilege and an honor to be here and to give a speech based upon the launch of something that will be seen and heard and lived about for generations to come, the Irene Endowment Trust. I will tell you a little, just in a few moments. I would love to share something with you. My mission with education is very personal. I grew up in a place where education, I remember the days going to school barefooted, had nothing to eat. We would eat the fruits of the trees and the sugar cane from the fields just before going to school. In those days, I learned the importance of education by selling snacks on the soccer field just to survive. But today I come to know a few words that I have chosen to taken out of my vocabulary. And those words are, number 1, complain. I make a conscious decision not to complain. Number 2, blame. Number 3, justify. Number 4, prove. Number 5, the word impossible. Those words you will not find in my vocabulary. Because I will normally say, if it has been done before, it can be done again. And if it has never been done, I will be the first to do it. The word impossible is not a part of my vocabulary. I am here to say, with such a trust, the Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust, it should not be taken lightly. I know we are all here today to see the launching, but many times we have seen launches, and then after the launch, we didn't see the continuation. For this trust to continue and the results to be seen, it will take us in this room and greater. Due to the limited access to education growing up, I launched quite a bit of stuff. My wife and myself, we launched Build a Life Foundation, which the core mission is to put a school in every country in the world. have quality available education available to all humanity in their field of study. We have schools and we have students in Zambia, South Africa, the Caribbean, and so many other places. So today I stand here joining with this trust my mission of having 1 billion free courses available to people that don't have access to quality education. We focus on 8 basic areas. How do we master the 8 basic areas of life? How do we master personal development? How do we master business or career development? How do you master financial development? How do you master the area of health, your contribution? These are some of the areas of life I believe need to be mastered, and in a simple and effective way. We have set on that course to have 1 billion courses available to cities for free. In that case, thank you. I said that to say this. It's about when I went through the process of not having and not knowing where to access, I've come to the conclusion, it was a few things. It was the very first thing is, how do I live? But I had to switch at some point and said, how do I love? So my first mission was love unconditionally. Love God, my family, and humanity enough to share the love of Christ with them. That's my mission. How do I lead? What kind of a curve will we set for leadership? How do I learn to lead while teaching leadership? And number 3, how do we live our best life today? I will say this, it's not in the blowing of the wings that determine your destiny, but it's the setting of the sail. Today we have seen the launching of the Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust. It will be setting sails for thousands and hundreds of thousands, probably millions of students and children in years to come. We have seen the fruits of the seed that was planted today in their children and their grandchildren and their descendants. We have a unique opportunity at a unique time to do something and to help set the sails of millions of young people globally. The question is not how it can be done. We are seeing the launching of the Endowment Trust. The question, rather, is how can I help? I believe we can all ask this question, how can I help? A seed that is planted is never seen again, but you see the fruits that it bears. Today is a very unique opportunity for us to plant some seeds. I can't hear you today. Seeds that will be planted here today, and I'm gonna, with permission, seeds that are gonna be planted here today will be seeds that will set the sail of millions of children in the future. We plant seeds with our love, we plant seeds with our kindness, we plant seeds with our support, but in a world where finance is so important, we must plant seeds with finances, what we will call money. Can I hear you? My speech today is to awaken you to not sit back and see another child with the lack of access to quality education. It may not have been you But you can do something today with the vision and the mission of not seeing another child without access to quality education. Today, on behalf of Cycle University and Seminary, I'm here to represent Honorable Dr. Reverend Philip Finn of Cycle University and Seminary. And today we are honored to partner with the Juni and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust. This partnership we will look forward to a lasting relationship from our Board of Governors and everyone that represents our university. We will be happy and we are elated to be a part of this movement, to be a part of this endowment. I will leave 3 things with you. And I will say this, 3 steps to change. Number 1 is awareness. We are all aware that something needs to be done. Number 2, it's understanding. Understanding that the urgency is now. I hope you'll agree with me that education is a very vital and important part of our development. Education in multiple areas of life. Number 3 is reconditioning. And we see right now, it's an opportunity that we can recondition and retrain, that it is possible to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So I will say today, arise. The 5 C's of influence, I believe, is the center, the core, the committed, the concentrated, and the crowd, or the community. There is such a vast gap from the core to the community, and where partnership is needed, and where help is needed. Today we are in the room with a launch, which is the core, but then we have the community that need the services. I believe today we can have some committed people here. Today we can have some people that will go out to the masses, to the crowd, and share the message. The joy of understanding sovereignty, it's more than money. When we understand that we can be a sovereign people, and I believe today, with this launch, on behalf of Cycle University, we are honored once again to partner with the trust, and we will work and do everything that is needed to make progress a reality. One more thing, I'm like Paul in the Bible. Finally, brethren, I would like you not only to leave here today having a great lunch or enjoying the wonderful food and the amazing speech, but I'd like you to make a serious commitment in saying, I will support this trust financially. I'm not afraid to speak about finance. Okay? I'm not afraid to talk about money. So I will tell you today, if we were at the place we wanted to be, $1 million would have been nothing to raise in this room today. So that is why I said reconditioning. If I should ask for $1 million today to give to the trust, who can do it. Yet still, we are in the greatest city in the world, the greatest financial city in the world, New York City. So I encourage you to let's switch our thinking, switch our brains, and say, you know what? We can do more, we can be more, and we will do more, and we will be more. So don't leave here today without supporting the trust. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the remarks. I agree with you that today we're planting seeds, and seeds need water, love, and care.
Yes.
And we got the message that we would like to support the Endowment Trust with our efforts, with our financial support, and I think everybody got the message. Now we have 2 more speakers to go. The first, I would like to welcome Professor Joe Omeokwe, who is a senior pastor from One Year International Christian Missionaries.
I spoke already.
Oh, you spoke, okay, I'm sorry.
But I would just want to say that we want a partnership with you all and
The Menakaya, Juni Menakaya Endowment Trust, as the chairman of the board of Vineyard, we will be partnering with you from now going forward. But what I can commit myself to right now is that we're going to, next year by April, go to Onisha, survey what we can bring in, because we are here in the Bronx. One of the things we can do is to do the internet and the communication system and computers for you. I want to go do inventory first and assess it. What we're doing in Bayelsa, we replicate it in Onisha. That's a guarantee.
Thank you. Wow. Is anyone happy? Yes. Or emotional like myself? Yes. Mohammed, I thank you so much for coordinating this session. I know I have to pull you out last night to be here with me. Thank you so much. We just have one more section and we are done. And I believe in under 1 hour we'll be done. So, not taking much of your time, the Endowment Trust is committed to solutions on community and less privileged education. And I agree with our professor here, who has set up a picture of what is happening in one of the states in Nigeria. But I would like to tell Prof that the school in Onisha, the Irene Menakaya School in Onisha, is already a center on this project. And we have been doing a lot within the community. In fact, as at now, we have about 80 children who are on the family scholarship from the less privileged group. So already we are still there. We have data and statistics on one of them. But one major challenge we have is setting up a computer center. One is a challenge is the Nigerian government has introduced entrance into the university through the internet, computer online exam. And 99% of children in that community don't have access. They don't even know how to write exam. So incidentally, we are delaying education, university education from these people because they cannot sit to write an entrance exam. And all that is happening. They have not seen computers, they don't know about computers, they can't even sit for the exam with computer. So it's one of the projects of the school that we want to set up a hall. In fact, we have a hall that can take 1,000 sitting exams. But they need a computer, they need instructors, they need technology to educate them how to prepare for the exam. And this is what is one of the major challenges. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy that we are there. And I want to encourage the Brooklyn Charter that we are starting a project on this that I will need your patience. Very soon will be done. So please bear with us. Thank you. Without this, I want us to give the mic to the chair of this session, Professor Godfrey Ajonko, who is a retired school administrator, New York State Board of Education. to give his speech and then follow up the speakers. The speakers is Minister Warren Brown Phillips, His Excellency Osapa Heru Elbe. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Rosemary was Miss Amaka Agulwe Julia Shaw. I want them to get ready. As soon as the share finishes, we'll begin to call you one after the other. Thank you.
It's also LB.
Sorry?
LB.
Elbe, okay, sorry. Sorry about that. He will be the third person to speak after. So, Professor John, please.
Good afternoon. His Excellency is here representing our distinguished guests. And in the tradition of Nigerians, we will say title holders, senators and chiefs. I still believe that even some of our African Americans must have come from families of titled people, chiefs, so I still recognize you all. My name is Professor Godfrey Achoku. I'm a retired school administrator. The brief history of myself is that I'm the first Nigerian in New York City, possibly also in New York State, to be appointed a high school principal here. But that having been said, I'm so honored and so gratified and so humbled. And I was also moved, very much moved, by what transpired here a few minutes ago. It was so emotional. There is nothing that parents can enjoy, even if they're dead or alive, to see that your children uphold your legacy. We all believe that there are spirits. When we die, we turn into spirits, even if we're in heaven. And back home in Africa, we believe in ancestral worship. We believe that our ancestors bear testimony to some of the things that happened to us here. Actually, our religion in Africa is very much like the Japanese Shintoism, ancestral worship. Before the Europeans came to Africa, we had gods. We had a supreme god. And then we had minor gods too. Our God was exactly the same as the Israelis. Even though the Europeans adopted the Israeli gods and turned it to their own gods and made him a white god, but when you compare our traditional religion, permit me, I'm not going into religion, I'll get back into education, but I just want to make some analysis. When you compare our African traditional religion with that of the Jewish religion, there is no difference. We slaughter chicken or hen, they do it. We slaughter goats, they do it. We worship our gods, they do it. They do everything. But so be that. I'm so gratified again, and what I saw here, I know the Menakaya family long time ago. Dr. Ada was in elementary school when I was in high school. Don't mind how big she looks now. She's a little kid. When we come back home from secondary school, then elementary school, and we interact. She was interacting with my younger cousins. So my relationship with the family goes so far. That notwithstanding, I've been in the classroom here for 30 years, during which time I have taught in the different tertiary, in the different levels of education, both primary, secondary, and tertiary. And I have witnessed the differences between urban and rural education. And also, while growing up in Nigeria, I was also able to witness the differences between urban education in Nigeria and rural education. Let me give you one example. When I was in primary school, my parents took me home to the village. I don't know the reason, I was very young then. So that was during school time, so I have to miss school. But anyway, they wanted to make up, so they asked my cousins in the village to take me to their school so that I could spend time with them in the school. So when I got to the primary school, I was shocked by what I saw. They were sitting on the bare floor. Now, I schooled at Port Harcourt, and my village was somewhere in Owerri. And the village school there didn't have there were no seats and desks. But at Port Harcourt, we have seats, we have desks. We have a chalkboard that is movable. We have chalk and everything. What I saw over there was that they used charcoal to color part of the wall black. And the children sat on the floor. The teacher has no desk or table, and he wrote on the bare wall, except that they used charcoal mixed with water that was grounded into powder, mixed with water, and they used it to color a section of the wall, maybe about 4 feet by 3 feet. That becomes the chalkboard. So when I got into the classroom, all the kids were sitting on the floor. I was asked to sit down. Looking around, I didn't see anywhere to sit. I'm not going to sit on the floor. I'm not used to sitting on the floor in the classroom. I schooled at Port Harcourt. That's where I was schooling. We had desks and everything. So the teacher was mad that I would not sit down, and I was mad that I was asked to sit on the floor. So I ended up staying the whole school day standing up from that 8 o'clock to 1:30, and I never went back to that school again. I stayed home until my parents were ready to take me back to Port Harcourt. So I said, that was my first experience. So when we're talking about urban schools and rural schools, I had my first experience when I was in elementary school. Now, let us look at what we define as urban schools. Schools in metropolitan communities that are typically diverse. They're characterized by large enrollment and complexity, many of them struggling with growth. What makes urban schools different? So we're going to look at urban schools, which is metropolitan schools, and look at rural schools, and we're going to make an analysis between these urban schools and rural schools in America here, as well as urban schools and rural schools in Nigeria. I bet you're not going to find that much difference. But let us see what we'll come up with. Urban schools tend to perform at higher levels, all right, than other schools. Now we'll look at the socioeconomic forces or factors that differentiate these schools or make them to perform. The socioeconomic status explains only part of the performance differences between students in urban schools and those in rural schools. All right, what are urban schools like? Urban schools are high-need schools. I will focus on urban schools first, and then I will go to rural schools, and I will compare the two. Urban schools are high-need schools. They're inner city schools, and you can know more about other urban schools because of overcrowding and poor funding. What makes United States different in this aspect is that, let's say we're in New York City here, we're in Manhattan. Some of the schools you find on the eastern side, they're urban schools. Also, the schools you find on the western side of Manhattan are also urban schools. Some of the schools you find in the southern part of New York City are urban schools, and some of them in the north are also urban schools. Now, you're going to say that these urban schools are going to be doing very well, supposedly, but that is not. Two schools can be close together, maybe 10 blocks apart, but what makes the difference between these two schools will be that the one in a high-income area will outperform the one in a low-income area. And let me put it this way. Urban schools in Manhattan, on the eastern side of Manhattan, where they have a high income, the average income there could be somewhere around 500,000 to over $1 million, where apartments or co-ops or condominiums in those areas cost in the $5 million or $10 million. Now, just suppose that with urban schools, say in Harlem, still Manhattan. Now, where you get apartments or condominiums or co-ops that cost, let's say, 500,000, 250,000. So what I'm trying to explain to you is that the income of the family in that community determines the performance of the school. So you can have an urban school in a low-income area of the metropolitan city not doing that well. And those schools will have these characteristics. They are considered inner city schools. There is overcrowding. I remember in those days, in the high schools here, the union would be fighting with the city government because there are about 40 students in a classroom. Yes, in the high school here in America, 40 students in a classroom in the city. So we're talking about being in the city. But then you move to the east side, you will find that that is not the situation. Now, how do you teach low-income students? Because the teachers have a role to play now, especially those in urban city schools where they want to catch up with the standards that they have to meet. Teachers have to stay positive and focus on what they have to do. Teachers have to advocate for impoverished students. Teachers have to take action, meaning they have to do whatever is necessary to help their students. Teachers have to show the path. They have to have a plan and work their plan. Because you know what you're dealing with. So you must have a plan on how you can take the students along with you. There is something you call applying the trauma. You know, those of you who are in the medical field or health field, you know what trauma means. If you are in the urban school in the lower inner city, you have to apply the trauma, meaning that all hands have to be on deck. You have to be able to coordinate resources. You have to be able to reach out to your communities, to your colleges, to the corporations, whatever facilities are around. You need resources from there to help you in carrying out your job as a good teacher in helping the inner city students. Now, I have so much to say, but let me move on to rural schools because time is not on our side. How do you define a rural school? Both of them look like the same. The definition of urban and rural schools are defined as polar opposites. Rural schools have similar challenges to urban schools, except that they don't have the resources around them. So what I'm going to tell you is, whatever I've said to you about urban schools, having resources around them, having universities, having corporations, having the police, all sorts of amenities and technological development and innovations are within. They use it. But in rural schools, they don't have these things. So these are the things that differentiate them. Rural schools do not have access to close-by universities, to corporations. They don't have access to the innovation or technology. They don't have exposure. And the teachers there are struggling, and they lose teachers faster than in urban schools. But again, urban schools are divided into those in affluent society area and those in impoverished area. Let me leave you guys here. I will continue to the end of the day, but I thank the Menakaya family. I thank Ada very much for this opportunity. Like I said again, their parents must be very happy with them for what they have done. I wish my own children will one day, if I'm able to leave a legacy, and carry on with that legacy. I thank you, Ada. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. Sorry, we did not start on time at the time we were supposed to start. And the very important section took much of the time. So please bear with us. We are supposed to end everything by 2. Now it's to 2. So probably by 2:30 we should be done here, both eating and everything. So please, I urge the panelists to please speak to your thoughts between 5 to 6 minutes so that we'll be able to leave, please. In fact, give us 5 minutes, okay? Thank you so much. I would like to call on His Excellency, His Excellency Elsa Elbe. Is he coming in?
He left.
He left? Okay. So, Minister Maureen Brown, please come and take over. And as she does, Lady Rosemary wants to get ready after her. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Maureen, Minister Maureen Brown Phillips. I'm also Provost of Kingdom Life Bible Institute. Madam Chairperson, distinguished speakers, fellow panelists, and participants. I feel honored to stand before you to make this presentation. I send my greetings to Dr. Ada Okika and the family for this noble initiative. Thank you very much for inviting me. First, I would like to commend my colleagues for their insightful and valuable contributions to this very important discussion. I'll be speaking briefly on financing for quality education. The adoption of the 2030 Agenda with its 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets provided for an ambitious shared global vision with the intent that no one is left behind. Education is an integral part of this landmark achievement. Education is protected as a fundamental right And this right to education is one of the key principles underpinning the Education 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goal 4, SDG 4, adopted by the international community in September 2015. At this important point in the journey of 2030 Development Agenda, financing for the SDG 4 and targets is very vital, and this calls for urgent attention to be given to the needs of education in rural communities. The international community's objective is to provide inclusive and equitable quality education at all levels. All people, irrespective of sex, age, race, ethnicity, and persons with disabilities, migrants, indigenous peoples, children and youth, especially those in vulnerable situations, should have access to lifelong learning opportunities that help them acquire the knowledge and skills needed to exploit opportunities and to participate fully in society. Through good quality education, gender equality, human rights, and the breaking of the cycle of poverty can be achieved. It is one of the most powerful tools by which economically and socially marginalized children and adults can lift themselves out of poverty and participate fully in society. Through education, we can act responsibly and address issues affecting our environment and the world at large. Since its implementation in 2016, some significant progress has been made overall. However, schools in rural communities are experiencing many challenges, particularly African countries, less developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island development states. Now, what are some of the challenges these schools are facing, and what can we, the international community, do to assist? What can we, the stakeholders, do? In some countries, children are still walking barefooted to school. Many students travel miles in order to obtain an education. Many students suffer from malnutrition, as one of our speakers told us. Many parents are not able to finance their children's education. Many children are orphaned as a result of civil unrest. An integral part of Sustainable Development Goal 4 is to substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers. In some community classrooms, there is still a great need for adequate resource material for both teachers and students. Teacher training is non-existent in some schools. To many, low salaries act as a disincentive to teaching in the classroom. It is also very important to look at the infrastructure of schools in rural communities. In some schools, there's no electricity. Some lack furniture, and so many students sit on the floor. In some rural areas, there are no physical buildings, so children have to sit on the trees. Some schools' buildings are in dilapidated conditions. Many schools do not have access to computers, libraries, or science laboratories. There are still gender disparities in education in some community schools. I was told that there's a family of 5 who live in a small village in Nigeria. The father is a farmer, the mother is a housewife, and they all live in one room. The 3 children are very brilliant, but the parents lack the financial resources for them to receive an education. As a human right, education is supposed to be equitable, inclusive, and of good quality. What can the international community do to help this family and others in similar situation? One major means of financing is through collaboration and by creating partnerships. Some practical ways include providing scholarships and grants. We can adopt classrooms and assist in providing resource material for both teachers and students. These can include computers, books, iPads, etc. We can build and upgrade education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitive, as well as provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environment for all. How can we assist financially? We can establish endowment trusts like the Barr, Juni, and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust. Through international cooperation, we can provide online training for teachers in developing countries, and small island development states. Training can be done via Skype, Zoom, etc. We can provide teacher exchange program. Another way we can contribute is through foundations. The Marie Brown Teacher Support Foundation was established at Irene Menakaya School in Nigeria 10 years ago and has thrived. This foundation was named in my honor. The Marie Brown Award, which is given annually to the best teacher, acts as an incentive to maintain a high standard of excellence and serves as a great source of encouragement and support to the recipients. This foundation has helped to provide resource materials and monetary contributions for the teachers and the school. Currently, I have a set of encyclopedia and school books, and I'm looking for a partner to help me ship these resource materials to Nigeria. Will you partner with me today? How can we help finance community classrooms? Through sponsorship. 2 months ago, I visited Zambia, and I went to an orphanage. It's called Village of Hope. The school is called School of Hope. It has an enrollment of 630 students, which includes 109 orphans. Some of the school challenges are insufficient teaching materials, laboratory facilities, sports facilities, inadequate books and stationery. I was so moved with compassion when I realized that 109 orphans lacked the opportunity I had to get a good free education in Jamaica, West Indies, decades ago. Like the children at Irene Menakaya School, these 109 orphans deserve equitable and inclusive education. What did I do? I felt compelled and I sponsored one 10-year-old boy by the name of Lombe. In my conclusion, it is my contribution that the Barr, Juni, and Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust will begin from now to build a network of schools in communities, to enact teacher-pen-pal relations. I will continue to give my commitment to this trust through my career as provost of Kingdom Life Bible Institute and the Marie Brown Teacher Support Foundation at Irene Menakaya School in Nigeria. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Morin. I think this is an outcome of more than 10 years relationship with us since 2007. And she has been so supportive. I didn't beg her about the school, but when she learned about the school in Nigeria, she called me and said she has an idea what she can do to help with the school. That was in 2007, and it has continued this day. Every May, she sponsors capacity building for teachers, honors the best teacher of the year, and kept providing resources to the school. So I thank you, Maureen, for that support. Now, the performance is great. Thank you so much. The finalists, I told you we're running time, please. Try to minimize and speak to 5 minutes, please. Now, I want to call on Ms. Rosemary Moss. She's going to share with us on inclusivity in early child education, and she is Executive Director for Human Development Organization International and an early child school proprietor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. She's giving me 5 minutes. I'm giving you guys 2 minutes. I don't have much to say today, But I am very, very happy to be here today in honor of Barr, Juni, and then Irene Menakaya. This is a family that I've known strongly in Nigeria, even though that I know more of them now that we are in the same compound, but we never know each other until we arrived here. One thing is that having a family is very, 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 very important. I am very, very happy that I am here today to honor our mother, Irene Menakaya, for the foundation that she laid down. And then it happens to be an area of passion for me here in the United States. She laid a very good footprint for us. And that footprint, we have to solidify it so that it will not die on us. And then I'm also very, very happy that the children are also working together in order to see that the foundation that they laid down is not dying in their hands, that it will continue eternity for their children to know the importance of what their grandparents has done for them. Yeah, I am here in the United States for a long time. What I am passionate about is not what I read here. But it happened that I just took it. If anybody said that I will be a teacher, I said no, I don't want to be a teacher. But I got involved with the early child education, the most challenging part of education in the school system. And that is what our mother, Irene Menakaya, actually specializes upon. It is a very challenging area of education. A lot of people always underrate it or look down on early child education. It's very, very crucial. If anybody doesn't know it, a lot of people think that it is a place where people can go and then babysit children. No, it is not. I have to assure everybody here that early child learning actually starts from the womb. As the mother is carrying that child, the learning already started. Whatever you do, that child is hearing it. And then one funny thing there is, like in my school here in New Jersey, I look at most of my children that they are carried to me at the age of 1 month. And then when I see them stage by stage, how they develop, you wonder what God is doing. So that shows to us that learning, education is very, very crucial. These children learn from their environment, but people will come and see and come and observe that the children are just running around or they're just playing around. No, something is going on there, socially, emotionally, physically, wherever. Everything is going around them. Education, they are just learning their environment, exploiting it. So what I am trying to say today is, I'm not coming here to start telling you guys a history because I'm not a historian, but I am trying to encourage more on what our mother already laid down for us. For the only advice I can get to Menakayas is that they should make sure that this foundation that the parents have laid down does not die down. And then on behalf of my organization, I am just, we are going to be in support of trying to making sure that the teachers in the school, at Menakaya School, get some of the trainings always every time that I have time to visit Nigeria. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lady Wilson. I just want to let you know that in May, she was a facilitator to the school capacity building. She was in Nigeria and she was able to do a 2-day training for the teachers in the school. So I thank you so much. Yeah, I'm calling another person for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, please. Mr. Maka wants to look at the intervention for the girl child education in community. Another, please.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you today? Great. So I do want to keep everything very short. I did have a long speech address for you all, but I think that with all the speakers here today, everybody's made some very good points, and I don't want to be redundant. So let me start by this. I just want to point out the quality of education, of course, we know is important. But beyond that, we know that once quality education is accessible, what happens next is what you do with it. How do you empower the student to take advantage of the resources that are available to them? More specifically, we look at girls' education and the importance of educating young women, especially in underdeveloped countries, because a lot of the time we see young girls being taken advantage of. They don't have the education or the wherewithal to know, their potential. So how can we support that? How can we get them to the point that they are thinking critically of themselves, they are empowering themselves, they are empowering their communities? Because when you look at a woman, she then becomes a mother who then becomes the provider of her home, of her community. So you want to educate her, you want to support her. Furthermore, just the 3 main points I want to make and touch on. So first, this point was brought up a lot, meeting the needs, the most basic needs of the student as well as the teacher. And so that looks like, shelter, food, the primary basic human needs that you shouldn't have to worry about before going to school. And for teachers, it's the same thing. In a lot of rural areas, they don't necessarily have the transportation or the food or even the money to get the things that they need. So how can they focus on providing the best quality education? So how can we create a way of supporting the basic needs of these students and teachers so that there's an environment conducive to learning? The second point that was brought up a couple times today is bringing up and providing the opportunity for networking. That is exposure to different trades, different ways of being, different, like trainings, learning opportunities. Just the mere fact of showing somebody the possibilities that they have is empowering in and of itself. Just letting them know that there are different ways and different methods of going about meeting their goals and their dreams. And there isn't just one way of doing things. So the very last point I want to make is providing opportunities for self-learning. And this is actually a pretty big point. So what I mean by self-learning is things like emotional intelligence, learning about yourself. When you do have those resources, when you do have those things available to you, how do you take advantage of them? How do you motivate yourself to be aware enough to know, okay, well, I'm hungry now, and I know that if I don't eat, I won't be able to learn. So let me go figure out how I can get some food. Simple things like that on a day-to-day basis. And that really comes down to what most people call emotional intelligence. Has anybody here by show of hands heard of emotional intelligence? Okay, a few people. That's good. So let me just break it down to just 5 components. So emotional intelligence includes self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, as well as social skills. So I really feel that emotional intelligence has a place in all education. So when we speak about quality education, it's not just how can we get students to get jobs, but how can we get them to become better citizens and be able to give back to their communities, because that's what we're doing this for. That's why we're educating, so they can pay it forward and we can build our communities. So that's all I want to say, and thank you all for your time.
Well, 2 more speakers to go. Thank you, Amaka, for that. Bringing our minds to emotional intelligence. That's very vital in areas of the educational development, especially for the girl child. Thank you so much. I want to call Julia to give us the community intervention. Julia is a director at Rondell Village Community Center. So she will give us the real ingredient for community intervention on quality education. Thank you.
You're welcome. It is my honor and my privilege to be here on behalf of the Rochdale Village Board of Directors, the Board President, Ms. Jean Castro, the management team, and the Rochdale Village community. I am proud of the accomplishments of the Irene Menakaya Endowment Foundation. I learned a lot today, and I want to congratulate you on your accomplishments and your legacy, that you're here and you want to continue your mother's legacy. And you have your children here, and I'm sure your grandchildren. So that's very important that we support each other as we work to empower each other. I want to leave 2 things with you. It's important that we love each other and respect our passion and our purposes, and that we respect each other as we go forward to achieve our goals and our purposes. Rochdale Village community is a Mitchell development in Queens, and we have over 5,000 apartments. I'm the director of the community center there. And if you want to, in respect of time, if you want to learn more about Rochdale Village Community, Rochdale Village Community Center, and our motto as a Mitchell Co-op and a community, a village within a village, you can log on to our website, which is rochdalevillage.com. Again, blessings to this organization, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you, Julia.
Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for that very brief intervention. Oh, what else can I say? All of us have been very patient, and I would like to call on Dr. Kalfani to give us a call to action intervention. Dr. Kalfani is the director of the Africana Institute at Essex County College. Dr. Africana, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing today? We've been here for a minute, so we're gonna not be too long, but I want to just take a few moments to say a few words and reflect on some things, and to do what I was asked to do, and that is to charge us with a task ahead. I want to first of all say that as we start, we usually, if we're doing an event, we want to ask permission from our elders to begin. So I ask permission from those of you who are elders that we can begin. Thank you very much. And also, one of the things that we do, I just want to do a little abbreviated libations, because we're here on the shoulders of the Menakaya family. So we pour libations for them that provided the opportunity for us to gather and think about educating young folks in Nigeria and elsewhere. Ashe? We, yes. We pour libations for those, we're here in the States, in the United States, because of the sacrifices of those brothers and sisters who had a long tradition and understanding about education and commitment to education, and their struggles and sacrifices and trials and tribulations are the reasons why we're here today. Ashe? There was no Nigerian embassy, no space like this would be available for us as African people. I don't care what country you come from, if it wasn't for those brothers and sisters who struggled in the 50s, the 60s, and before and after to make it possible for us to be here. Ashe? There are some of those brothers and sisters who are still political prisoners locked up today, who've been in prison for 20, 30, 40, almost 50 years, still to this very day, who were the ones who were at the forefront, who made it possible for those of you who are more recent migrants to be here in the United States, whether you're from the islands or from the continent. But if it were not for their struggles, we may still be sitting on the back of buses. Ashe? If we did not have those who fought, yesterday was Nat Turner's birth, the anniversary of the struggle of Nat Turner. If it were not for those Nat Turners and folks like him, we wouldn't be here today, because we might still be in bondage. Ashe? You see, all of those folks make it possible for us to have this conversation today. So we got to put in context what this conversation is about. Those who struggled, who came from the continent, those who, many of us didn't even make it to this point because we died in Middle Passage before we left the continent, because the first struggles started before we left the African continent. And those of us who fought and tried to make sure that the places and spaces that folks tried to take us, that we didn't get to those places and spaces. So many of us died getting to what some people call the castles, but really were the dungeons for us. Getting to those dungeons, that many of us died on the way to those places. Ashe? And we recognize that there really is but one time. That is that that our DNA and our spirit represents the past, the present, and the future. So we pay homage to those who came in the past, Ashe. Those in the present, Ashe. And those yet to come, Ashe. You see, because your DNA was at the beginnings of the beginnings of the beginnings. And those folks who were there at those beginnings, they're still in the DNA of those who are yet to come. So we have to recognize that continuity of our ancestors. See, they want to make sure that we know where we come from and where we're going. And when we understand that, see, all of this other stuff can work itself out. But we have to understand that piece first, and that's what I want to bring here for us today. That piece alone is the key connection to the things that we do. The brothers and sisters who struggle with the Moors, who came in and have understood that history, right? Those are some of the folks who have continued that legacy. Not everybody has to agree with their approach, but their struggle to continue the dialogue and the push for what that is part of this legacy. See, all of those brothers and sisters who fought and continue to fight, and their children's children fight today, are why we're here. Ashe? Wait, Ashe? Okay, I want to make sure we all on the same page. When we think about libations, and we think about what this event is about, I want you to call the names of some of those great educators who made it possible for us to be here today. Whatever their names are, I don't have to know their names, but you know their names, and when you call them, their energy and spirit will be brought into this space here today. So call out their names. Ashe. Come on, Ashe. Don't be scared. Ashe.
Go ahead.
Ashe, come on now. Mary Church Terrell. Ashe. You see, we have all these educators who help to uplift us in the face of white supremacy. And we have to understand that context is the thing that, I can't remember who spoke about it, but when we think about the conditions for our presence here, we have to recognize that white supremacy is the thing that came and continues. It doesn't matter where you are, we still confront white supremacy on the continent. Go to Africa and see how much Africana studies is taught in Africa. Almost none.
Our education on the continent and the islands and here, for the most part, is still based on a white supremacist understanding of reality. And so we have to challenge and transform that. That's where it begins, I believe, in what we're doing and trying to transform, that a school like this needs to be talking about African studies. You got to be teaching about Africans all across the continent, not just Nigeria. What about Africans and what were the struggles and the successes in Zimbabwe? What were the struggles and successes in Benin? We teach about the greatest educational facilities, or we think, let me ask a question. Where's the Great, when I say the Great Wall, where's the Great Wall? No. The Great Wall in China is 5,500 miles. The Great Wall in Benin is 9,000 miles, but we don't even know about it. Our own history. It's still there waiting for you to go visit. But we want to go to China first. Now, I just went to China. I just went to the Dominican Republic, got back this weekend. There's so much African history that we don't know. And we got to go all these different places so that we can recoup that African history that has been spreading for thousands of years. There's evidence of us being here all up and down the Americas for thousands of years. We just think that, right, like today's the most, even yesterday, I think it was yesterday or today, folks are focusing on the 400 years. No. That 400 years is a testament to white supremacy. We've got to look beyond and before what that was and who we are and what we bring to the table. We have to see that if you go to China and you look at some of the ancient structures and some of the temples, the shrines that are there, and you look up twice and you say, look at all the Africans in there. It's a whole bunch of Africans who were sitting at the table in China, who were some of the Buddhists who arrived and received nirvana, right? So that there's not but one Buddha, there's lots of Buddha. Buddha is a state of mind. And so that when you think about that, you understand it, and you go visit some of their temples, you look up and you say, there I am. But until we begin to look for ourselves and understand who we are as Africans, that we begin to think of ourselves as Nigerian and Jamaica and African American. No, we're all the same. You see, because when you start focusing on Nigeria, you forget there was no Nigeria before. Nigeria, Ghana, all those countries' names came into being in 1884 and 1885 at the Berlin Conference, where there were no Africans at the table. Ghana became Ghana because Nkrumah changed it from the Gold Coast. Ghana was up, the people, the Ghanaian people, if you will, were up where Mali is today. That's where the Ghana Empire was. We have to put in context what it is that we're talking about and who we're talking about. You look in Africa today and you talk about the Yoruba people, that they don't just exist in Nigeria. They're in Ghana and Benin and all over the place that you see the Yoruba people. Why? Because the borders cut off and determined who they were in a European context. We've got to go back and say, no. What is our context? What is our definition? Who are we in the context of what African people dictate? In the Dominican Republic, they have a celebration, ancestral celebration that I went to, and they say it came from the Congo. Now, how many of us know that in the Dominican Republic today, for the last 400 plus years, as a matter of fact, even before that, from the 1400s, they have been practicing Congolese traditions in the Dominican Republic until today. But we don't know that, because we don't know our history. We don't know the connectedness of us as African people. We need to go back and reclaim our African spirituality. That was said before, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm a Yoruba priest in the Egun, in the Ifa tradition. And I think when we understand what Egungun is about, it's about the masquerade. It comes out and it is used to help to bring that ancestral energy and spirit to connect the community with things that they do or don't know, and to bring those ancestors back to the present. And so that's what we need. We need to be doing that to connect ourselves to our ancestors. And so some of the things that were talked about today help us to understand how we get there. And I think that one of the main things that I heard today was about the brother from the Moorish community didn't speak, but I want to just say that we go back and we think about some of the things they've talked about, and I've known that community for a while in Jersey, is that about sovereignty. And the first thing about sovereignty is sovereignty of your mind, right? You have got to understand, because your weaponry can't beat white supremacy today, but your brain and your ancestors and your spirit can. How do you defend yourself against white supremacy? Know thyself, right? Once we know who we are at a core level, there is nothing and no one who can defeat us. But we can't continue to use European paradigms, and I may not be, this may not sound well for everybody who comes from a different spiritual tradition, but I would say European spiritual systems. If those are the things that we're using, we've lost before we started. We've got to understand, what did we bring to the table? Ifa, Akan, the Sangomas, voodoo, all those things that we are afraid to talk about have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we can't be scared to talk about who we are. We have to get back to a Pan-Africanist idea. As a Pan-Africanist, my foundation is about us as African people, no matter where we are, coming together. And if we understand that, we transform the world. See, we keep putting our children in these educational systems that are about our demise. And your intellectual enemy is not going to educate you to be successful against whatever him or it or they are. And so that's why one of the things that we did is that we homeschooled our children in a place where we pay taxes, a lot of money, to and fight for. So we got to fight for educational system for everybody who has the ability to do that. So I'm not saying that we don't fight for the change and the transformation of education and the establishment of it in different ways. But at the same time, as we're fighting for all the children, we have to do things for our own children. So my daughter, she's getting ready to come up here now. I'm going to invite her up. Her name is Tia. Yes. Tia Jindai Ma Tikafani. And so we had started a school system, a homeschool co-op called the Ma'at Shule. And she's going to tell you something. And she's also in an all-girls program called Super Camp, or started by a sister, a friend of mine. And she's going to tell you both what their pledge is. And you begin to think about what we can do as a people, but it's about how we educate our children, right? If we're only educating them to the extent and the way in which those who dominate and control us want us to think, then I don't care how many degrees they got, they're gonna be for your demise, your own children. And they'll be the smartest ones on the block, but they'll be working towards the benefits of those who are trying to undermine our success. And we've got to change it. We have to have, as Martin Luther King Jr. said at the time of his demise just before, he said we have to have a revolution of thought. We have to have a revolution of our mind. Malcolm X had a gun that was attached to him, but you don't have no record of him shooting anybody. What he was actually shooting was the mental chains that are on our brains. The mental chains that are on our brains is what he was trying to get you to destroy. We have to destroy the virus of white supremacy that is within us, because we're attached to it. We look forward to it. All right, Tia.
Hello, my name is Tia, and this is the pledge for the Supergirls program. We are the children of Africa. We practice Ma'at, truth, order, balance, reciprocity, and reciprocity. Like the Sankofa bird, we look to our past so that we can be our best today and every day. Ashe.
And just tell them the pillars of the Shua.
And these are the 4 pillars of my school: Ma'at, Sankofa, Ubuntu, and Nguzo Saba.
All right, thank you. So, when we think about the pledge that they do, one of the words that you heard was Sankofa, right? So what we did was we invoked in the Shule for these 4 pillars, and these 4 pillars come from the various corners of the African continent, but also of the diaspora. So Ma'at is a Kemetic or Egyptian continent. Don't let nobody confuse you. Egypt is in Africa, even though in the museums they have it in a whole section by itself. Right? Egypt is North Africa. The majority of the people there before it was taken over by Europeans and then by Arabs was African people who call themselves today the Nubians, right? We have to contextualize. This brother didn't talk about the fact that he wrote a whole bunch of books trying to help young folks to connect to, that is Brother G, he goes by, to connect to their understanding as Africans and how strong and powerful that you are as Africans, and to change the mindset of young folks about who they are and what the connections are. So Ma'at, which stands for truth, justice, righteousness, harmonious balance, and reciprocity, right? And order. The Sankofa is a bird that looks one direction and flies the other direction. And so that it's saying that it's okay to go back and get that what you forgot. You got to know where you're going, know where you came from, so that you can know where you're going. Right? And then in Southern Africa, the Ubuntu, it basically, it's hard to sum it up exactly, but I'll say that it comes to we are, therefore I am, therefore we are. That we are tied to this community, and the community is part of us. So you can't get away from us. Right? You may think that you can, and about being an individual, right, this Western idea, but that's part of the flaw. And the last one is Nguzo Saba. Now that's from East Africa, but it also is diaspora, right? So that is something that not just Malana Karenga came up with, but there was a whole group of Africans who worked in the Kawaida development. Oftentimes it's presented by as if it's just one person, but the reality is there was a struggle. And that struggle brought about this thing, and I'm not trying to take anything from him as an individual, but if you go back and you talk to the people who were there, that it was a group of folks who were involved in the process of it, right? And so then that thing is here. We have, we talk about the continent, but then we collectively in the diaspora are the things that continue that. And so our collective connection is the thing that we want to focus on. And so the last thing I want to say here, as we kind of sum up this, is that Dr. Thornhill mentioned that we got to put the sails up, right? But I want to just tweak that a little bit, because it's not about just the sails, because a ship that relies on sails, if there's no wind, you're not going anywhere, right? So that you've got to realize that the wind is that we call from Oya, right? So that there's a spiritual element that we can summons to ensure that the things that we're trying to do, and we rely on the connections to the divine to help us get to where we're going, but also that the divine has charged us with the responsibility of ingenuity, so that we can have a motorboat to get us to where we're going, and we don't have to only solely rely on the sail. And so that I want to say in charging folks is that what motorboats are you creating today? What engines are you using and producing that are going to be the engines of change for our community? See, we have to realize that innovation didn't stop, that we want to educate young folks to both know who they are, but know that they are the progenitors of that which is to come. If we just are educating them to do what we've done, then we failed. We have to educate them to know that we want them to innovate. We want them to think beyond anything that we can think of, because the world is complex and changing fast. We don't want them just to have computers, because sometimes the computers they get are so outdated that the things that are going on
are way beyond that, right? So that in New Jersey, they're testing kids and they're giving them, what do they call those things? Chromebooks. But the test that the state test that they give them require them to use mice, for the computer. Don't know kids today use mice. They're backwards educating them for something that doesn't exist. The kids need to be educated on touch screens and everything else that's going on. But the educational system, if we're not careful, is reversing them and not preparing them for the future, because the future has nothing to do with the computer systems that they're giving them. We need our own schools and our own mentality about what those schools are about. So, in closing, I want to thank my sister for inviting me here. Dr. Atta is always on the cutting edge of things, but I also want to thank all the brothers and sisters who are here and those that had to leave for coming, and recognize that all the kids, can we have all the young folks stand up? All the young folks, Tia. All the rest of y'all stand up, please. Because see, in the end, let's give them a round of applause. In the future, we need to have an event where they're engaged, because they're the ones who are going to be inheriting the world. Yeah. And we want you all to be sure that you're telling us how you learn best. Telling us the things that interest you, because we gotta interest and motivate you about our African history so that you don't look forward to just Disney, right? You're not looking forward to just all the other things that are antithetical to your existence, but the things that transform you, transform our communities. Y'all can have a seat. And thank you very much. Peace and hotel.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Okay. I mean, just, yeah. You have a question?
I just want to change his language. When he says history, he has to say our story.
Oh, okay. I got you. All that. So, we're changing history to our story.
Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. You see, we cannot do with this initiative without looking at the community. What, Doctor, don't go yet, please. Okay. What the doctor has just done is the forgotten community education, what those elders, ancestors used to do in the community. So these days it's forgotten because of the other form of Western education. So he tried to just already imagine what it should be. When we talk about community, we talk about the culture, and we talk about the foundation culture education. This is exactly what he's done by Paul Brother. I know I met my grandparents doing that. I met my great-grandparents doing that. So you can imagine what life was then. And now when we just wake up and just walk to school or walk to our job, walk to the car, and walk to the society without doing the first thing that ancestors taught us. So thank you, Doctor, for bringing it back. And I would like to call Dr. Menakaya to come and do, please wait, Doctor. I know you're in a hurry to do. Yes, please.
Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful morning and afternoon. I know we're running late, and I won't waste much of your time. But I'd like to appreciate everyone who has been here today, and to give them something of a memorial to remember today. So, without much ado, I'm going to ask, offer the certificate of support and partnership with the Center for SDG Global Education USA and Irene Menakaya School to the Africana Institute, Essex County College. Doctor.
Thank you very much.
And also to the International Strategists Alliance, LLC.
Dr. Tam.
And to Brooklyn Charter Malls. Brooklyn Charter Malls. Thank you.
I'm sorry, my people had to leave. They had
Thank you very much. And finally to Sika International University. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for closing, I'll call on Dr. Tom Hill to come and do a dedication prayer for the trust, and then we have our lunch and we'll go. And I want to appreciate everyone for coming. I want to appreciate Ambassador Henry, all the way from New Jersey, who is here with us. Can you say hi? Yeah, thank you. I also appreciate Conroy. Yeah. Are you stand up? Thank you so much. Yes. Members of the family and my sister who just came in all the way from Philadelphia. The Chiwe, I was supposed to stand up, Chiwe. Stand up. He was supposed to speak, but the traffic jam all the way. Where's your mom? Is it coming up? Is she upstairs now? Okay. Oh, okay. So I want to thank all the speakers and those who are still here and those who have left. And most especially, I want to thank Professor Joko. Professor Joko is also partnering with us to start the Teacher Resource Center at the school. And interestingly, he said, he knew me when I was very, very small, very, very small. In fact, when we recite our geography and current affairs, we said, the resident of Onisha, Mr. B.U. Ajoko, that's the uncle. So it was a long time ago. Maybe it was among those who used to flog me when I take their ball. I didn't remember. So I thank you that we are able to meet each other here. It's a global world, and we've been connected. They have been so supportive. When he was in the Board of Education, we discussed about teacher resource in the school to help provide resources and even start a Skype training for teachers on daily basis. And it's still in the pipeline. So I thank you for that support. I thank Dr. Kalfani, who is here, and in fact, you know that I'm not going to leave you now. Very soon, you'll see me there. And I thank my little sister, Amaka, who left her job and is here to share about the girls' education. She's born here, but she has not forgotten the home and what the life of the girls are with respect to schools. Most girls in the community are not allowed to go to school. They are rather giving out in marriage because the family feels that when the girl marries out, the help to train the boys is now needed. So that with a recent, people like ourselves be going home to talk to the girls what it needs to be educated. And that is what we are talking about. So I thank everyone. I thank my sister Yvette, who is a Morris sister and always supporting me since 2007. I can't help to thank them enough. They have been so supportive and all the rest of them. And I want to thank my rapporteurs for today in the presence of my sisters-in-law, Dr. Irene Menakaya. Can you stand up? And tell my Menakaya, so can you stand up, the rapporteurs for today? And please, some of us left because, of course, you know American time and schedule. So we have some little refreshment. After the prayer dedication of the endowment by Dr. Tom, we will have our refreshment. Thank you so much.
Come on, can we stand to our feet just for one last moment before we leave this place? Yes. Our God in heaven, we bless your name. We thank you for this moment. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. this moment that will be the story of many generations to come. We thank you for this moment of dedication, this moment of dedication to the endowment. Lord, we thank you today that by the authority of heaven, by the authority of the kingdom of heaven, we stand here today as ambassadors with heavenly credentials. Our credentials does not come from man. Our credentials come from heaven. As ambassadors of heaven, we are proud to be taken care of the one who sent us. Father God, we thank you today as we dedicate this endowment trust, as we dedicate these schools that will transform lives, these schools that will change its history, these schools and these children, men and women from all over the world that will be able to plug in and that will have a connection, some form of connection to these schools in the mighty name of Jesus. We thank you that you will do wondrous work. I pray today for witty ideas, for witty inventions in the mighty name of Jesus. I pray that from this school we will have astronauts, we will have trainers, we will have technologies that have never been seen before. From these schools we will have songs that have never been written before. We will have instruments that have never been discovered before. We pray today that this school, that everyone involved, everyone connected now and that will be connected in the future, will be connected by a genealogy of spirituality. I pray that they will understand their spiritual genealogy. As I stand here today, as a generation of the continent, as a descendant of the continent, I pray that you will do wonders. I pray for the leaders in the mighty name of Jesus, that the ones that will carry the mission out as we all partake. I dedicate this endowment trust, the Barr and Juni, Irene Menakaya Endowment Trust, in Jesus' mighty name, that we will shake this world, that the next generation of leaders will come to understand truth. The next generation of leaders will come to understand the position. The next generation of leaders will come to understand and develop and discover unity in our community. In this, we thank you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Thank you. Please, can we have a group photograph, everyone? Please, everyone, can we come together by the list for a good photograph?
Excuse me. Excuse me.